9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and X-Wingin It is back, and we are ready to talk about the newest show on Disney Plus, and obviously that is the Acolyte. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot of input and a lot of very interesting takes on this show. First one, welcome back, good old Darth Biggie here. Now, yeah, he's in the process of moving, so it looks a little plain back there, but hopefully we'll have him back on here regularly once the schedule gets going again and he gets down. Let's move on. But welcome back, Brendan, and are you ready to talk about the Acolyte today?
Dude, I'm ready to talk.
It's all right.
Exciting show so far.
Well, we're definitely going to be talking about that. But before we go into any of that, I want to thank our sponsor, TRG Toys and Collectibles. Make sure you check them out at trgtoys.com. You can find everything there from Marvel, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, you name it, they got it. So check them out, trgtoys.com. So, Brendan, obviously, we're talking about the new series, The Acolyte. Now, I know this is one of these ones that we're seeing a lot of mixed reactions on the internet, and I'm actually surprised it's more mixed than some of the other Star Wars stuff that we have seen. So I want to hear from you and first see what your thoughts on it before we get into talking about the characters and everything. And how did you feel about those first two episodes?
So I've been very excited for this show leading up to it. I know, or I've been into the High Republic stuff, so. And I'm also just excited to see them exploring a new era in Star Wars. So like I want this to do really well. So I don't know if that's playing into my enjoyment of it or not, but I thought the first two episodes were good. I know we'll talk about Andor later, but because you have your thoughts, but I thought Andor with like the 3 episodes it really got its hooks into us. My 2 complaints about the first episodes were it was a little slow. And I prefer that they show instead of tell. There was a little more like talking than I would have really loved, but it's cool to see a bunch of Jedi as the main characters.
Yeah.
It's cool to explore a different era where we don't really know what's going on. We're getting a really different feel. This isn't the Jedi Order that we see in the prequels. So it's cool to see them kind of at their peak. And with that, like they're at their peak power, but we're really kind of seeing some of those, just even in these first couple episodes, some of those underlying issues that kind of lead to the Jedi being overconfident and everything that goes down in the prequels. So I'm super excited for it.
It's one of these shows, that when I first saw it coming, I didn't know, because most people know I didn't get really big into the High Republic and all that stuff. I'll be the first to admit I haven't read a lot of the books. But I will already say this, and for everybody who's listening, I'm ready for the comments to come at me here. I already like it better than the whole season of Andor. All right. Just because Andor was just not my type of storytelling for Star Wars. Andor was good. I'm not saying Andor was bad by any means. I'm just saying it wasn't my type of story. Here, I already got lightsabers. We got some kung fu action. We got all kinds of good stuff going on, which, makes it exciting for me. And then one of the things that I'm really seeing is on a lot of comments about is how we're kind of going for, everyone's like, oh, this is away from the Skywalker story. Really, it's not. I mean, we're still heading back into that direction, everybody. So just be prepared. I'm sure we're probably going to see some Easter eggs and some other stuff. I mean, Yoda's around, obviously. We're obviously on some familiar planets again. But I haven't really made my decision yet if I am a huge fan or not, because we're only 2 episodes in. I did like what I saw, but again, I'm not hooked yet, and I don't have that excitement that I had with The Mandalorian, to where it's like, oh man, I can't wait to the next episode. I'm like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm on there and everything. And then real quick, man, before I come back to you here real quick, I want to give out to JJ for watching. Justin's good to see you on there. I'm sure. And I see the Dash Randar comments already on Instagram. Obviously, we can't do a show without Justin there, without mentioning good old Dash. But yeah, so that's where I'm kind of at. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I know you're a huge Andor fan. I mean, from that to this, I mean, what are your liking and not liking compared with Andor? I know it's two different cups of tea, but at the same time, what were you like with this?
So, I think the strength of Andor was the storytelling. I think it's a drama set in Star Wars. It explores themes that we haven't seen before. I've always been kind of drawn to the non-Jedi characters. Like, I like the bounty hunters, I like the operatives and that stuff. So not seeing lightsabers and not seeing force powers wasn't a drawback to me, where I understand with other people that is what Star Wars is for them. They want their space magic, which I think Acolyte is delivering so far.
Yeah.
So and I think there is potential for there to be some really good in-depth storytelling in this show. And I think if we get a good story, that's what's going to draw me more than any special effects or whatnot. So, and I think they've laid out a potential. There's some interesting characters. There's interesting stuff going on. I think they've kind of teased us with, I think, like, people think they know what's going on, or are upset that like what they thought was going to be a big reveal later in the season was already kind of given to us.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna have faith in it. I think I still am. Obviously I'm gonna watch it. It could be terrible, and I'll continue watching it. Like, we've watched every show that's been out there,
exactly. I mean,
plus or minus. But I do have high hopes, and I've heard kind of through the grapevine and what people are talking about. And I think it's out there, is like the episode that like does it and gets you excited, and is that whoa episode is episode 4. So it's rough that that's that deep into the season, and I hope people stick with it till then, and that it actually delivers. But I see a lot of potential. I think it's been really good so far. It's been exciting. I thought it kicked off amazingly, like that action sequence, like that really drew us in. Slowed down a little after that, but overall, just a lot of good stuff. Obviously things that could be improved or done better, but that's with everything,
Yeah. And so I'm going to read some of these comments here from Instagram. Unfortunately, I can't share Instagram comments over yet from StreamYard. Hopefully they'll fix that here soon. But I got Justin here. For a fairly big budget, I didn't feel wowed by much of the special effects when you compare it to Andor. It's still got some legs, and I'm still optimistic, which is good. And so that's, I agree. Like, there is a lot of there's some special effects. Some of it kind of looked, back, but I'm still not giving up yet on it.
Yeah.
I'm even more interested.
Tablet, so maybe I missed some of what was good or bad. But
and this is hurts for me to say this, but I'm even more into this one than I was the first couple episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. So, and you guys know how I feel about the Book of Boba Fett. I think it's one of the worst Disney Plus series. So again, we're there, but let's start talking about the characters, because everybody thought we were going to get this huge epic character in Master and Dara. And I'm sorry if we mess up these names, because they're still new to us. And again, I'm not too familiar with the High Republic stuff, but we got the Matrix starting off. I was so excited. We got to see this in the movie theaters during some previews and stuff. And then bam, she gone just like that. The Matrix didn't help her out too well over in the Force world. I mean, what were you expecting this? Unfortunately, it was spoiled for me. But for you, I mean, were you expecting this when this episode started?
Not beforehand, and I kind of avoided a lot of stuff leading up to it as well. One, I've been busy, and two, didn't want anything spoiled. No. I think as it was happening, I think we knew just from the previews that Jedi were gonna die. And they talked about there being a murder. I think even the prologue sets it up as an assassin comes out from the shower or shadows sort of thing. In that scroll. So as it was happening, I'm like, they're not going to kill her, are they? Is she going to die? And then, spoiler alert, she does. And at first it is, I mean, great actress, really cool action sequence, like interesting character. I'm hoping we maybe get some sort of flashback episode to explore like the 4 Jedi's past, and some more of her. But I think there's been a lot of pushback, people feeling like they got reeled in or baited or promised one thing. I personally kind of like it. It sets the tone of no one is safe. Like, this is the character, this is the actress you thought was going to be the face of it. Or it's like Ned Stark getting decapitated at the end of the first season, but even earlier, you know? Yeah, I'm spoiling everything today.
I know, right?
But I like that I think it set a good tone of no one's safe. These characters that we're being introduced to are going to die. Jedi are going to die. And I think it just upped the level of suspense. And then I also think it's really interesting how she dies.
Yeah.
Because it kind of calls to the weakness of the Jedi or their strength as well. Like, it was her concern for someone else that left her vulnerable.
Yeah, and that's
so overall, I thought it was really good.
And that's what I thought was interesting with that too, is because the Jedi have always kind of been at peace. And if you notice, the Jedi have never really, where they had opportunities to, kill their enemy, they've always kind of regressed from that. I mean, it's been every Jedi story that we've known. So now we kind of see where this is coming from. But again, yeah, she sacrificed herself to save someone else. And to me, it was pretty cool to see that. But again, we saw the weakness right there. So there's a lot of stuff coming at us, and I really think we're going to see, like you said, every time I hear you say that a Jedi is going to die, for some reason it goes in like a Jar Jar Binks voice to me, and he's a Jedi going to die.
He's a die.
It just keeps clicking in there like that. So, and sorry for my bad Jar Jar impersonation, everybody. But yeah, I just keep seeing more and more of this, and like it's kind of like very Rogue One-ish, because we already know that we don't see any of these Jedi 100 years from now and then the new stuff, so we know that most of them are not going to be there except for maybe Yoda and everything else there. So
yeah,
but going into the next characters we're going to talk about, this is where I'm going to get on my little high horse again. The Star Wars connection with orphans. It seems like you cannot be a main character in the Star Wars saga without having something happen to your family. That's just bottom line. That's like the Star Wars rule. It must be written in everything on there.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead. Obviously, we're going to talk about Osha and May. Now, this kind of surprised a lot of fans. And I try to stay away from as much as I could from spoilers, and actually kind of, got me too a little bit. But again, we know there's an event where they lost their family, and neither of them knew each other was still alive, but they still had some kind of Force connection. And we're back at the orphans again, and they're going to have some kind of outcome in this story, like just like Ezra, just like Luke, just like Anakin. And I guess Anakin wasn't really orphaned, but something did happen to his family
eventually.
It's just that storyline there. But I was very intrigued by this because, she was a former Jedi, and we kind of know how like Ahsoka and other former Jedis were treated, during the trials and stuff, like when of course she was trying to find guilty or they're trying to find her guilty for something she didn't do. And her, we really still don't have all the full story yet. She chose to leave the Jedi Order. And that's Osha, of course, we're talking about. Yeah. Because May, we didn't even know she was around. But what were your thoughts about these two characters and kind of this Force connection between them?
So, yeah, once again, I mean, I think the orphan thing, it's not just Star Wars, unfortunately. It's just a very common trope. You can't be interesting unless you come from a background of a lot of trauma.
Batman.
But I think I've heard a lot of people just kind of saying like, we're surprised that so early we were told, yeah, it's actually twins. Like, she's not the bad guy. They kind of wanted that to be a later reveal or more to it. So I'm interested to kind of find out why. that was introduced so early and what story they're trying to build up by introducing it to us early. I think the connection between the two is really interesting. I think there's a lot to explore there as far as what split them up, what caused them to like definitely believe the other one was dead. If there is this force connection, why wasn't it around for the last couple years, or was it and it was treated as dreams or dismissed by other individuals? Also kind of like with Indira, when she like took the mask off and she said you, like, did she recognize that it was May, or did she think it was Osha? Like, did she know that May was still around? So I think there's a lot there. I think the acting on both characters is good. I think they've set up a very interesting, compelling story as to what actually happened in the background. So yeah, like you said, the twins thing, the orphan thing, there's a lot of just kind of tropes.
It is. It's just and I guess it's like our comfort food for Star Wars or something. I don't know. Justin commented too. Twins always seem to be the story catalyst. Twice in the Old Republic games, Acolyte, Luke, Leia. You know, so we got that there. And then he also said Broom Boy for The Last Jedi might be orphan too. So I mean, obviously, he probably is.
I mean,
involved. We still need to know what happened.
I mean, if he was, he'd have his own movie already. So maybe not.
Yeah. I thought what was really interesting with these two, you know, it's because obviously May is blaming the Jedi for what happened to their family, their city or town, up in flames, destroyed. Even what's interesting was that, the little Padawan, said, I see flames and stuff and darkness and, and everything there. And then, her sister Osha didn't know that she was still alive, but then also they get these like visions and connections with each other. And then it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Rise of Skywalker. I was waiting for her to like reach through and grab like her necklace or something or her droid. I'm like, please don't do that. Please
toss me an apple.
If JJ's still listening here, I just probably made him cringe with all that there. But so I thought it was just interesting. They have that connection. They didn't really know each other was alive. And then when they finally confronted each other, Osha didn't have it in her to actually stun her sister. I mean, she missed big time with that shot. And again, sorry, we're spoiling things. You had enough time to watch it, everybody. It's on Disney Plus. You know where it's at. There's just all these little things here. And, with her leaving the Jedi Order, kind of just doing her own thing, working. And that kind of reminded me of the Ahsoka story. Because, here's Ahsoka, fixing stuff and those little speeder motorcycles and things like that. When she was on the one planet, that was a couple filler episodes in season 7 of the Clone Wars. It kind of reminded me of that stuff. Here's somebody who's force sensitive, not really kind of shut herself off from the force a little bit and struggling to try to use it again when she needs it. So, again, familiar stories all the way around, but I'm kind of still intrigued. Like I said, I'm not over excited yet for the next episode, but I haven't given up, or like with me with Andor, I had to let a couple go and watch a couple together to get through it for me there. So interesting characters. I'm anxious to see what kind of outcome and if they both make it through the whole thing and everything there. So let's talk about the character I think everybody kind of agrees and likes, and that is Master Soul. He gives me that Qui-Gon vibe where he doesn't totally agree 100% with what the Jedi say and how they do things, but he does it because he has to. I'll let you get more. I'll let you talk about this first, because again, you might have a little bit more with some of the good old books and comics that you read with the stuff that I completely skipped over. What are your thoughts on him?
Once again, I think the acting has been amazing. Like this actor learned English for this part. So I just think there's a real presence to the character. And kind of I'm just very intrigued. And once again, you're kind of getting, I think there's got to be more Jedi like him like Qui-Gon out there, where they were raised in the order. They probably believe in the core tenets of the order, or what the order represents, or what it could be, but they question maybe the actions as the whole, or the decisions of the council, or maybe the things that the order's focusing on, when they could be focusing more on individuals or helping individuals. I know there was another book that just came out called The Living Force that kind of talks about focusing on the now and helping people now, because the council was kind of too focused on the big picture that they were missing the small stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought the themes of that book kind of clicked as I was watching some of this. So I'm interested. Once again, I think there's the big reveal, or there's going to be something very powerful when we learn what actually happened.
Yeah.
And how much of this character is acting, or like did they do something awful?
Yeah.
And how did they cope with it? Because it seems like the others didn't cope with it very well.
Yeah, and then we'll get into that with one of the other characters
in the middle of the order. So
yeah, it's
very intriguing. You know, so kind of with like Balin as well. We don't know a lot about the character, but what we've seen, I want to know more. Like, I want to know this whole guy's history. I'm really excited for more of his story to be told.
Yeah, I agree 100% on them. And this is where I'm liking the storytelling a little bit, because we're kind of getting fed little things, you know, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. There's something, that major event changed the life of 4 Jedis, and obviously they're dying for it. So something, there was major that happened there. I do like kind of like how he is like Qui-Gon, because obviously like how Qui-Gon picked up Anakin was like, even though he probably knew that the Jedi, you know, council was going to say, no, Anakin was too old. He didn't care. He was going to bring him. He was going to train him. And that was the bottom line, you know, because Qui-Gon said so. You know, that's it. Did a little Stone Cold there for everybody. You know, it's interesting because he wants to do his thing to solve things quickly and not wait for, you know, and again, this is a little bit of Anakin as well. He doesn't want to wait for the whole court system of the Jedi to convene to see what the next move is going to be. He wants to make that next move now. And that's one of the things that I really like about this character, and really hoping to see more, because I want to know, like you said, I want to know more about this major event that happened there. So I'm going to skip a couple of slides here, because since we're talking about those Jedi real quick, let's talk about another event. Obviously, these Jedi that was involved with this, you know, it's definitely traumatic on them. So now we go to Master Torben, who we knew was in a state of trance, and I forgot what it's called, because we saw this in the Vader comics, and I forgot the name of it now.
Yeah, I just started trying to Google it myself.
But who's in this mode where he was in such meditation that, you know, no one could even get through the force power, kind of like when we saw oh god, I'm ready for Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian, when he was on the stone, and, you know, Mando kept trying to grab him, kept getting blown away from it. We saw that kind of force power around Torben. Now everybody also knows how I am about mental health, so I hope that anybody who's watching this tonight, please don't let this to be the way to escape your past. All right, this is the way to do it. But, you know, this was in their storytelling. So we get, you know, May found a way and knows what his weakness is going to be, and she didn't even have to raise a finger to kill him. I mean, what were your thoughts on that? Did you I mean, obviously you didn't expect these Jedi to be dropping one by one, but I mean, now this is getting pretty serious. So what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I looked it up. It's the Barash vow.
Okay.
So yeah, he was in just a deep meditation, and like you said, the Vader comics had hit on it before. It's someone that it's kind of a penance, or a way for them to withdraw and be within themselves. So once again, it's hinting at whatever happened was extremely traumatic. There's some level of guilt about the events, whether it was that they caused them or couldn't prevent them. We don't know. But and it says something to the sense of that May knows her targets, has a good feel for what they're going through or what they've experienced. And I just, it really gave, I think it was an interesting twist on like Indara was doing whatever she was trying to survive.
Yeah.
So her way of dealing with it was to, and I don't know that she knew it was involved necessarily, and she didn't stop when she realized who it was, but
yeah,
it obviously kind of set her back. It's just very, very interesting that he took this route and that they decided to go this way. And I think the other choice she gave him was to go to the Jedi Council and admit what they did.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was unwilling to do that really speaks to the severity of it, or it opens up so many more questions.
It does. It's like, what did they do? And sorry, folks, having a back spasm there. That was not expecting that one. But like, what did they do? What was that impact on that planet? Like, did they attack without being given the okay? I mean, there's so many possibilities and stuff. So I'm anxious to see, what we're going to get out of that. But yeah, that was just a very dark, very kind of like, wow, what took place on this planet that made him decide that this was the way to go. But then we also know now, so we're down to two Jedis dead. Another one who is up next here, and again, I'm going to butcher the name, so I'll let you go ahead and
I think it's Kalnaka.
So, we didn't get very much of him in these first two episodes. Obviously, we get a brief thing where some people come up on his home, but obviously this is the next target. So we're going to put it out here now, everybody who is watching. Does he make it past the next episode? Does he keep going? I mean, what do you think on him?
I think, maybe we're losing one an episode, and then with 4 it really kicks off.
Yeah.
One, I think fans have wanted Jedi Wookiee forever. We've had them in some of the books, we had them in Legends. So I think there was a ton of excitement to finally see one on screen.
Yeah.
I know for any other High Republic nerds out there, there is Wookiee Jedi that was presented in those books, and as soon as I forget the guy who played Chewbacca and is playing him as well was cast, everyone's like, maybe it's going to be Buryaga. So there's a little disappointment that it wasn't someone we know, but kind of now knowing that, like, man, maybe they did something awful. I'm glad it's not a beloved character.
Exactly.
So, I think once again, we see a Jedi that has gone into solitude and kind of just withdrawn from the order, is on the outskirts. I think we're going to see that that was his way of dealing with whatever happened. And I'm interested to see what his response is going to be to being confronted or realizing that his past is catching up with him.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's been alluded to that this is someone who's going to go down fighting.
Yeah.
And his response may be like, let's duel, or I'll take the results as it is. But just excited to see a Jedi Wookiee. That's awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
Let's just be happy about like when he grabs the blaster and then like goes through the effort of snapping it in half. It's both seeing the Jedi Force powers and then the raw strength of a Wookiee at the same time was just it was fun.
Yeah, I was waiting for like the arm pull and everything, but we didn't get that yet. But Justin also said, do you think we get like a Terebus or a Plagueis? Both should be around that time. This is probably going to be sometime when these characters are going to get plugged in. We know some of them are canon already, just haven't really been shown. I think we'll get those, and we'll talk about that at the end, what we're expecting from this with the show and everything there. But let's talk about the other Jedi that are, kind of tagging along here. We've got Jedi Yord and Lon, which is the Padawan. Now this is kind of interesting, an interesting duo here. I don't know if they're kind of trying to be like the Anakin, Ahsoka kind of thing, because you kind of feel it a little bit like it's kind of that. Now I know he has kind of set off a few Star Wars fans. I want to bring it up on this show. Let me know what you all think, if people are taking this too far or not. But he did make a comment during an interview about Anakin blowing up the Death Star. I guess you can use Obi-Wan's. It's from a certain point of view, I guess. I don't know if you really can defend that, but I was just trying. I know a lot of people are kind of rubbed wrong. If you're going to be Star Wars, you need to know your stuff, but there's a lot of stuff to know. But he's kind of like young and kind of gung-ho-ish. Again, kind of like how Anakin was. And then his Padawan, who's kind of, I haven't got a feel for her yet. I know she seems very eager, ready to kind of take charge kind of thing. What are your thoughts on these two?
So I think it's interesting that Yord kind of just presents himself as a very flawed character. Lapse in judgment in how they dealt with Osha in the first place. Like, didn't take her seriously. Oh, we're here. We arrested her. Let's pass her off to droids. And then he just comes across as very vain, kind of a false sense of confidence. So which I think I like. It makes him very human.
Yeah.
And it's also, once again, presenting Jedi as fallible, which I think is almost kind of the theme of this show. The Jedi we've encountered have been kind of like the pinnacle of Jedi as far as in the shows and movies. It's the masters, the members of the council. I guess in the Clone Wars and stuff like that, we saw a lot of those other Jedi just end up falling by the wayside, or the ones that die, we never really got to know that much.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that we're seeing the humanity of the Jedi, their flaws, kind of the fact that, they're respected, and some of it is just their ability with the Force is why they're in their position, and maybe they don't have the best judgment, or they do have other flaws that would kind of disqualify them or make them less than what we expect Jedi to be. So in that sense, I really like the character. So far, the Padawan's been a lot of fun. She presents as pretty competent, pretty smart, lots of potential.
Yeah.
Which I think is always, cool. It's nice to get a young character that isn't super annoying right off the bat. Maybe we don't have 3 seasons to decide we like them.
Yeah.
But I think there's, of all the characters, I don't feel like she's super fleshed out yet. We've just kind of gotten an introduction to her. She's shown competence, but I'm excited to see where she goes in the story. I hope it's kind of the feel of, with her being young, maybe she's the one who comes out of this at the end or whatnot and goes on to do more things. But it will be cool to kind of see what her journey is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that one as well there. So then we're going to go on to kind of like who is the master guy orchestrating all of this. And I'm going to talk about good old, I want to call him Smilo Ren, because we really don't know who he is yet.
Darth Joker.
The Joker, we can call him whatever we want to on this one. I think he's got more of a tie-in to somebody else in this episode that we're watching. We'll get to that in a second. We really don't have a lot to go by. What we do know is that he already has a red lightsaber, so he's already learned how to bleed the kyber crystals. So that's a big jump right there. So he's already been through that, so he really knows the dark side very well. Who taught him that? I mean, are we looking at, somebody who was taught by Plagueis or somebody else? There's a lot of possibilities here, but there's not a lot I can speak on right now, unless you know some more from the comics and the books, Brennan. I mean, are they really throwing us a big curveball here, or what are you thinking right now?
All I can say is in the books, I mean, both talking about the Knights of Ren in general, and then in the High Republic stuff, there are other Force cults out there. There are other dark side leaning groups and units, and they're not necessarily Sith. Yeah. So I think people kind of jumping to the conclusion, oh, this has to be a Sith. If it's a Sith, it should be Plagueis because the timeline. It doesn't. It'd be interesting if it was. It'd be cool if it was. But I also like people be the rule of two. Well, that doesn't mean that there's two groups of rule of two that don't know about each other, or they all don't necessarily interact. So I think it's cool that we're getting a dark side user.
Yep.
I'm interested to see what their background is. It's been a big thing, or maybe not a big thing, but like whenever the Sith are mentioned in the High Republic, just kind of similar to the prequel era. Oh, they're the boogeymen that you tell your kids about, like they don't actually exist. Yeah. But there is familiarity with dark side users. You do have other people in canon that have the red lightsabers that weren't Sith. So I'm just leaving that door open. I don't know what route they're going to take. It could be someone that found a red lightsaber. Like we don't know.
Yeah.
But so far they've been set up as someone very powerful, knowledgeable, pulling the strings in the background, obviously has an axe to grind with the Jedi. The fact that it seems like they've been training or mentoring May for years now. We're seeing that Sidious sort of grand master plan, years of planning and building up to something. So compelling character so far, cool image. I hope it doesn't end up being like a Snoke or there's a lot of wasted, cool looking, interesting villains in Star Wars. So I hope we get someone that's fleshed out. Or if it is someone that's left mysterious, I hope the door is left open for them to reappear or for that to be explored. I just hate when we get a cool enemy, we don't learn much about them, and then they're gone before it ever gets fleshed out. I want someone that lasts and is a threat. And
so you're kind of saying like Darth Maul when we first got him.
Darth Maul, Phasma, like the list goes on.
Yeah, we can keep going on that one.
Django.
But what I think is very interesting about that, so when we go back to Master Torben, when he took the poison, we obviously know that, the poison was made. Now, we get this weird guy coming out of the woodwork and literally pretty much stealing this potion factory from somebody and mixing, that poisonous concoction for May. And seems to be very knowledgeable, but acts like he's not. If you kind of get where I'm going with this,
Darth Jar Jar.
I feel that he knows more about our mystery Sith character than what even May knows that he knows. Could he be that character? Could he? Because he even kind of refers to him like, "Oh, he will be happy knowing that you never lifted a weapon." And like he kind of knew what this guy was going. I mean, I don't know. Do you think I'm going too far off the diving board here, or
there's definitely more to the character than meets the eye? I think.
Yep.
I do think it was presented to us. This is someone that works with her master as well, knows her master, is working with her because of her master, and mentions and says things that gives a sense that he knows the motives of the master. And it does seem to be at a level that's stronger than just he knows what she's told him. There has been speculation that he is the big bad and she doesn't even know it. So and he's hiding in plain sight, which is,
we've seen that before.
Maybe he's got a bunch of handmaidens around. Who knows? But I think very interesting character. Love the actor. Shout out to A Good Place and seeing him back.
Yeah.
A real kind of moment with the who is he? Oh, he isn't he with you? Just like that really felt like Jason. So yeah, very like once again, I think we know very little about the character and it's already compelling.
Yes, I
And
agree.
is it a misdirection or is there substance to it? We don't know yet. But I do hope it pays off.
I think there's I'm going with it. There's more, like you said, more. We're going Transformers here, more than meets the eye, because it's just too clicky for me.
Yeah.
It's if it's a misdirection there, it's a good one, because I'm convinced that it's not. But we'll see on that. Just like I said, this is the way he refers to this master or whatever. He kind of like refers to like he knows how this guy wants to know things and stuff. So we'll see on that how that plays out and everything here. So obviously we're 2 episodes in. We've got a ways to go before this series is done. I mean, what are you hoping to see, and what do you think we're going to get in the future here in the next few episodes?
Well, I mean, we know I'm excited for what we saw in the trailers, the episode where we see all the lightsabers light up and what that leads to.
Yes.
So I do think we're gonna get more action. I've liked kind of the kind of almost samurai ninja movie feel to the action so far. That's been fun. So I'm excited for more of that, obviously. As far as the story goes, once again, I kind of said I want to see, I don't want to be told.
Yeah.
So I think there's been enough talking already. I hope we don't get the story of what happened between May and Osha told to us. I either want it to remain a mystery or I want like a flashback.
Yeah.
I would like flashbacks are rough. They are what they are. I get it. But it'd be or even just kind of the unreliable narrator thing.
Yeah.
If May's saying one thing and Soul's saying something else, and we don't know who to believe, and it's never resolved, I think that's still kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want though is a trip through hyperspace that's as long as it needs to be for storytelling. And during the trip, they're telling what happened. I really want the bond between the twins to be explored. And then I think I'm excited. I kind of mentioned there's other Force cults. I think there was mention of there kind of being like space, like witches or whatever tradition that May and Osha came from was a group that used the Force or was Force sensitive. So I'm always excited to see what are the other aspects of the Force. It doesn't have to be the Night Sisters, but kind of like in Tales of the Empire, how we were shown another Force cult that was completely different. And I think it's very interesting to see more aspects of the Force being explored. So if we get some more depth on that, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of threads for them to pull. So as long as I get a compelling story, I'll be happy.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, number one is we're not, even though we are still heading towards the direction of, the Skywalker saga, we're not in the bounds of the Skywalker saga, which is what I like, because none of that stuff has been written yet. So we're all kind of, everything they can do is new. It can be new to us. And I do like that aspect of things. I agree. I'm hoping that, we keep the action up. We keep, these misdirections. I mean, these Jedi, I mean, we always looked at Jedi pretty much being, immortal until obviously we got the prequels and everything. But at the same time, it was weird just to see them fall like that. I mean, we saw, the death of 2 Jedi in literally 2 episodes, and it was nuts. We've never really, the last time we saw something like that was Order 66, if you think about it. And, so we got that, we got these sisters that are connected through the Force somehow she's turned herself off of the Force, kind of like a hint like Luke did, and so now she's got to reconnect herself because we saw her try when she tried to get her little droid. She couldn't connect with it to, pull it to her and everything. I'm talking about OSHA, of course. And so I think there's a lot of great stuff going into this. Like I said, I'm intrigued, and I'm glad I'm intrigued. I actually would rather be intrigued than excited, which I know sounds weird because I remember how excited I was, and I tell people the Book of Boba Fett, when we first saw Boba Fett, I mean, think about how cool it was. Mandalorian, we're sitting there and we already got the little teases. We heard, him walk in and the ding, ding. We knew he was coming. All right. That episode, Slave One flies across that screen. We're all going crazy. Boba Fett comes out there and kills 500 stormtroopers. We're all going crazy. We get the end of the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. We see him sitting on the throne. We're like, oh man, this is going to be great. And then we get Flashback City and 80s sitcom Boba Fett. That's trying
and the best
to make
part of it was the flashbacks. So.
And it was the I just couldn't take it. So sorry, everybody. I just
we have our axes to grind. They're going to show up every now and then.
Yeah. So, but I'm hoping we don't get that. I'm hoping if we keeps going the way it's going, I'm going to fall in love with this series. I can tell that just by the way it feels already. But like you said, if we get to where, hey, we're going to jump into a space whale stomach and travel for a while and talk about, this and this and this, or hyperspace and talk about, all the things in the past, I don't want a lot of that. I want to know what's happening now. I just want to just tell me what happened with that damn city, why these Jedi don't want to face the council about it. And let's move on and see, who the bad guy is, what's going on and everything here. So the last question about this series I'll ask you, and anyone else who's still watching or listening, do you think we're going to see Yoda anytime soon in this series?
I mean, the real question is, are we going to see Yariel Poof? Like, let's ask for no. I think we're going to get guests. So, I mean, there's 4 Jedi Masters that were on the council now and are on the council at the beginning of the prequels. So it would be cool to see Yoda, Yaddle, Yariel, blanking on the name, but it's a snake dude. Some of them in there. And I don't want them to be main characters. Just give us a little fan service. Like Yoda, even if it's Yoda hopping around like a puppet in the background, being yeeted all over the place like Grogu. Bet, like, that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't want it to take away from the story. I would be surprised if we don't get something from them. Whether it's just a quick appearance, they're being referenced.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised if we don't get a little fan service.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see who will actually voice Yoda if he is in there, because obviously, the old voice actors, and then Tom Kern, is that right, from the Clone Wars? I think that's right. Obviously, he had a stroke and is not doing voice acting anymore. So it'll be obviously I don't know who would voice them. But I agree with you. I want it to be a cameo. I don't want it to be like Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, we don't need an episode like that. We don't need Yoda coming to the rescue. This isn't a Yoda story.
No. We've already had Yoda story.
Yeah.
So that's
what I'm more Yoda stories. I just don't want this to be a Yoda story.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping for. Let's give us some little fun cameos. Now, if we get some more Yaddle, I'll take Yaddle.
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't had a lot. And unfortunately, when we got the next content of Yaddle, it was very depressing. But we'll discuss that probably on the next show, because I want to talk about the Tales of the Jedi and then the Tales of the Empire, kind of compare those two, what we got from there. But the last thing we're going to talk about a little bit, and I'm very excited to talk about, obviously, is Fan Expo Chicago in August. Now, we got it's pretty awesome. We saw Mark Hamill go out to California and everything there. And obviously the Midwest, for some reason, we really don't expect to get some of those names that, they get on the East Coast and the West Coast and everything here. But now we are getting, in Chicago, we're getting Mark Hamill, Hayden Christensen again, which Fan Expo, kudos to you guys. You reeled us all in like suckers. With your announcement, we're all thinking Harrison Ford, James Earl Jones, all that good stuff. And, obviously it was Kristen and Hamill. on there. But what are you thinking about this guest lineup from Fan Expo this year? I mean, they're knocking it out of the park.
Yeah. I thought C2E2 did a good job. I thought Indiana Comic-Con did a good job. So it is fun seeing these big names showing up in the Midwest. It'll be cool to see Hamill. Or I guess for other people to see Hamill. I don't know that I'm going. I need to stop with. I got all my Rebels Pops autographed. I am good. I've tried focusing on the animation because it's like it's cheaper, and then now it's like, well, it's cheaper, but then plus $40 because it's a pop. So
yeah.
Maybe I just need to start getting posters signed by hundreds of people if I want to save money, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for a lot of people who haven't had a chance. And I'm excited to see these conventions that aren't, I mean, it's nice that they're near us, but conventions that aren't NYCC or San Diego Comic-Con really starting to put up good lineups and be competitive with those, because those conventions are just out of reach for a lot of people. And more, I just hear people having bad times at those conventions because they're too big. There's a lot of flippers. There's just things that have taken away from the experience.
Yep.
There's also been problems with some of these small conventions. I know Indiana didn't seem quite ready to handle someone of Aiden's like fame. So I hope it goes smooth. I think it's great. And yeah, I mean, I think people definitely got their hopes up. But it's hard to be disappointed.
Yeah, it is hard to. We've seen some amazing people here in the Midwest lately. I mean, I know we've got that going on. We'll have ICCC going on here in Nashville in October. There's going to be a small little local one up here in October, which we're getting, a Star Wars actor.
You got Hamill for South Bend?
No, not quite. But there's a lot of great stuff going on in the conventions and the people you meet and everything there. It's been unreal. I'm lucky. I got my Hamill autograph already over there on the top shelf right there, so I don't have to worry about that one. I don't have to worry about those lines and stuff. I do got to get a couple more on my Mando poster. But overall, I'm very excited with what we're getting here in the Midwest, and hope we keep seeing that here soon. With that, again, we're going to wrap up things tonight. We are going to be weekly. You'll see Brandon, myself, and Travis back on the show. And we're going to be talking about each week's episode of the Acolyte after it comes out. So we're very excited to be back on a weekly basis to have some Star Wars content to talk about. And obviously there's a lot more news heading this way. Hopefully we're going to find out more about movies and stuff like that. Again, I can't thank TRG Toys and Collectibles enough for sponsoring us. Again, check them out, trgtoys.com. If you haven't seen that scroll along the bottom screen, they're here to sponsor us. Obviously, Brandon will be moving, so he'll be hit and miss for a couple weeks maybe. But once he gets settled back in, he'll be on the show regularly as well. And then again, Brandon, so welcome back. Hope you have a good move, and we get things rolling there. We'll see some Star Wars stuff behind you finally.
Yeah. Don't have these slanted roofs anymore. If any of you all are playing Star Wars Hunters and you're good at it, add Darth Biggie, carry me to Kyber. Like, let's have some fun. But there's some cool stuff going on in Star Wars right now.
Yeah, there is definitely games, and we're going to talk a lot about that next week. So we're going to talk about the Acolyte next week. We're also going to talk a little bit about Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, and any other new convention news that comes out. We'll talk about that as well. Again, everybody, be safe out there. Be careful. Again, remember, mental health is important. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you are struggling, please ask a friend, family member, or if you can't even do that, then dial 988 for the suicide hotline. They're there to help you out, everybody. It's very important to me. It's very important to you. We lose too many people every day that we love to taking their own lives, and it's just way too many. So be good out there, everybody. Be safe. I'm glad we're back on here. It feels good to be back, and I cannot wait to see you guys all on the next show. Thank you.